Hello everyone. The title of my presentation is A Simulation Process for Implementation of Knitted Textiles in Developing Architectural Tension Structures. I co-authored this paper with Paniz Farrokhsiar and Felecia Davis, all of us from Penn State University, Stuckman Center for Design Computing, and Soft Lab. The main material and structure in this research are knitted textiles. In general, there are three types of textile structures, and these are felted, woven, and knitted textiles. Woven structures are more stable and have been vastly used in architecture for fitting tensile structures. However, knitted textiles, because of their particular characteristics such as flexibility and multi-directionality, offer potentials for developing complex forms as well. Within the last decades, due to the developments in CNC knitting and computational design, knitted textiles and knitting techniques that were in the domain of garment industry for many years have started to permeate into architecture. And here you can see some of the works by pioneers in this field, such as Jenny Sabin, Mehdi Thompson, and John Alquist. Transferring knowledge from one field to other fields has always been challenging. One of the challenges in architecture is simulating such materials using common architectural tools such as Rhino, Kangaroo2. In this regard, the main questions of this research are: what are the methodological steps for simulating knitted textiles in Kangaroo2? How can one input characteristics of the knit material into digital forms, considering the knitted textiles multi-directional behavior? The vision for this research is developing a framework for form-finding process of large-scale knitted tension structures. And for the methodology, we physically knit architectural forms and digitally simulate them. In general, three scales can be recognized in knitted textile structures, and these are micro, meso, and macro scales. In architectural simulation, we are not going to simulate the exact shape of the stitches, but substitute them with simple meshes and use the meshes to embed information about material behavior. In this research, we chose quad shape because it better represents the manipulation and distribution of the stitches over the surface. From the overall point of view, there is a spectrum of possibilities. While one can make a planar shapeless textile and form it by applying forces on the left part of this diagram, on the other extreme, it is also possible to knit the exact shape with the least compensation required. However, there are other possibilities in between. One can knit a simpler semi-3D shape and obtain the final smooth shape by applying forces. The focus of this research is in the middle. Now I want to emphasize on a point. In common process of design and manufacture with the woven material, first we design the form and then we find the textile to fit it. So architectural form development and textile manufacture are separate processes. In the knitted textiles, however, these two are combined processes. We knit the textile and overall form seamlessly at the same time. It is important to consider because while many emphasize that form finding is a geometry-based problem, others such as Oxman argue that in dealing with new materials, both the characteristics of the material and the geometry are a stimuli for particular behaviors as it is for the knitted textiles. So we propose a change in form finding process of these materials. While design to manufacture a woven textile structure includes inputting initial shape, form finding considering boundary and spring settings, analysis, and cutting patterns out of the analyzed model, in the knitted textile, the initial shape and its size are the important starting point. Its shape helps to get the final desired form, and its size, if according to the physical material characteristics, ensures to get the accurate analysis result. The size of the initial shape is affected by the yarn thickness, patterns, and tension settings during the knitting process. Then in the form finding process, the boundary conditions and the length and strength of the meshes will be manipulated based on the characteristics of the material. If satisfied with the form, then the model will be analyzed. Finally, the knitting diagrams will be generated not from the analyzed model, but the initial shape. The framework was developed by making different needed models. Here, you can see the simulation steps. A grid is the starting point. For a single cone, a 3x3 grid is selected. Then the initial part of the form should be defined. Additional sections will be added, and the distribution of stitches will be determined at this part based on the kneading process. At this part, the number of stitches in different parts of the model will be defined. At the next step, the size of the stitches will be applied so that the initial shape will be the better representative of the needed sample with accurate dimensions. Then the boundary conditions should be determined. At the next step, we first divide the mesh edges in different sections of the model, such as whale and course directions, and input a value for length and strength according to the data obtained from the physical models by iteratively checking the shape, change, and the material. Taking the initial shape and their associated boundary conditions, we can run the simulation and get the final result. Here you can see the algorithm representing the whole process. This part illustrates the initial shape setting. Here, form finding settings and boundary conditions are defined, and finally the form finding engine. To sum up, you can see the results of form finding process for the physical models that I showed you earlier, emphasizing on initial grid, initial shape, and final form found models. The main contribution of this research is a framework for form finding of architectural needed tension structures. There are some limitations to this research. We manually tune the algorithms to correspond to physical behaviors. However, we currently are automating this process using optimization tools. With this, I want to close my presentation and take the questions from the floor. Thank you.